Friends, Swami Hriman here again, and it's time to Ask a Yogi. Today I'd like to talk about this book, Sadhu Beware. Well, actually, not so much about the book, but somebody recently asked, how should I deal with people who are critical of me, people I might live with or work with or otherwise have ongoing contact with, but who are critical of me. They don't seem to like me. Well, if you're stuck with such a person, hopefully not having to live with that person, but in any case, criticism is one of the most important and valuable measures of our spiritual growth and of the extent to which we have achieved some measure of ego transcendence. It's like a litmus test. Self-justification, by contrast, is really the death of the soul. There are times when even masters like Yogananda and our founder, our friend Swami Kriyananda, felt to justify their actions, but not when they were personally attacked so much as the principles or the work, the spiritual work that they represented was being attacked. In any case, when we're being critiqued, and I don't mean just in a singular moment, although that can be included. The question had to do with people who are simply don't like me, people who are critical of me on a more or less ongoing basis. And yet I have to deal with them because we work together or something like that. And so, is it possible to ask yourself, rather than react and feel hurt? I mean, you can't always help but feel hurt, but rather than only just feel hurt, do you have the strength to ask yourself whether or not their criticism, however unkindly given, are they correct? Can you ask yourself, are they criticizing something in myself that needs to be corrected? And if so, have the courage to work on it. It doesn't always do much good, particularly if someone is critical towards you, to admit your fault to that person necessarily. In fact, there are many times when just being self-deprecating and admitting your faults to just anyone randomly is not a good idea, because even if you're friends with them now when you just make your confession, what if later you have a falling out and they hold your self-confessed flaws over your head? You should only confess, so to speak, to someone who really has your best interests at heart and hopefully has a certain degree of wisdom to perhaps help you. But getting back to being exposed to people who don't like you or who routinely are critical of anything you do or say, silence is a good start. Don't justify, as I said. Don't react. You know, when you get into by contrast, when you get into a relationship with somebody where you're always jibing at one another, if one person simply stops, the game can't continue. So stop the game. Just don't react outwardly. Inwardly is even more important for you spiritually, of course. As I said earlier, ask yourself if there's some truth to what they're saying and see what you can do to improve yourself. But you don't need to do that with that person if they're not being positive or open to you as a person of goodwill. In addition, you want to continue, because I'm talking about someone with whom one interacts on a more or less regular basis, like at work. You want to be respectful, but keep your distance. don't expose yourself to that person, because it doesn't do them any good to be given opportunities to be critical. They're the ones who suffer the most, spiritually speaking and emotionally. So keep your distance in a respectful, calm, centered kind of way. And in keeping your distance, don't do so with disdain, but be respectful in whatever interactions you do have. Be thoughtful, be kind, but don't overdo it. Don't try to compensate for their criticalness by being especially nice to them. They'll feel that, and that just makes you a kind of a beggar. So be calm, be respectful, kind in a centered way, and then work on yourself if there's any truth to that criticism. But sometimes people are just toxic towards you. You don't know why. And so don't overly expose yourself to them or expose them to opportunities to continue in their being critical. Of course, also on a deeper level, pray for them. Send them light and energy. Only if they are really harmful to you do you want to keep your distance from them, even spiritually and psychically. But for the most part, there's no harm, generally speaking, in blessing them, and perhaps even considering some reasons why they're that way, or perhaps why they might not like you because of who you are for some reason. In other words, make excuses for them mentally, okay, so that you can be more not open, I shouldn't say that, more sympathetic towards their being that way. Keep in mind that they are the ones who are harmed the most by having a critical attitude. In that way, then, you can be sympathetic. Okay. Best of luck to you.